Welcome to The Market Makers. I'm your host, John Perchik, CEO of Anmore. This is a show all about pulling back the curtain on the creative professionals shaping how we live, work, and gather. On today's episode, we meet the designer who calls herself your go-to home therapist, Anita Yokota. After 20 years as a licensed marriage and family therapist, Anita traded the therapy office for the design studio, bringing with her a deep understanding of how our spaces shape our emotions.
Our cortisol levels at home can be triggered by such mundane things that we see as mundane, like, oh, that kitchen faucet's still leaky, and we just put it off for another week or month or years. But that slow drip can really create a mental load.
We talk about the journey from sorting through her clients' problems to sorting through their drawers, how the two are more connected than we think, and how finding her niche was the best thing she ever did. So the thing that jumped out to me about your background, it's an unconventional background for an interior designer. So maybe share with me how you got to where you are from where you started.
Well, I am a testament that nothing is ever a waste of time. Because I started off undergraduate minor in psychology. I'm a helper. I love helping people. Graduate school, I went to get my marriage and family license in California. And, I thought that was it. And so I did 20 years of therapy and I help people make sense of their stories. But now through interior design, I get to help them tell it through design, which is really amazing. But if you go all the way back, even as a psychology intern, I was doing home visits. And back then, my catchment area is all the way north of Malibu to Compton. So I traveled throughout so many different homes, different demographics. But at the end of the day, what I really noticed was how our physical environment informs our internal environment. And unbeknownst to me, I was 23 years old. I was helping people rearrange their pantry, even though I was supposed to go in and talk about communication and effective parenting. The moms were, so stressed out about the entryway with the backpacks and the shoes, or the couple was fighting about the one sink in their bathroom. And I was like, wait, I was here to talk about marital conflict. Why am I in their bathroom reorganizing their drawers? But that's how my method just evolved organically. And then 20 years later, my creative itch really grew. And instead of four walls of doing therapy and helping people, I branched out literally on a leap of faith.
So there was something inside of you as you were showing up to effectively do, whether it's couples counseling or therapy, something drove you to do that and probably do that really well, but you started to notice contextually space and I guess how space affected people. And that started to draw you in a different direction?
Yes.
Is that right?
I just started, learning that, wow, our cortisol levels at home can be triggered by such mundane things that we see as mundane, like, oh, that kitchen faucet's still leaky, and we just put it off for another week or month or years. But that slow drip can really create a mental load. It's the subconscious that we absorb at home that we don't realize that just little changes, color, textures, natural light, that affects our neuroscience and our brains and how we can function better. Because when we function better, our brains make better decisions. What do better decisions do? It improves our relationships. It improves our self-care, overall mental health. So I started piecing all of those things together and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I remember distinctly there was a 4-year-old girl. It was a very, very nasty custody battle. And we did week by week counseling, but we started talking about, well, how do we make this custody arrangement more smooth and transition for her. And we talked about her bedroom furniture and what her layout was, and at dad's house and mom's house. And I remember thinking about furniture plan and making that seamless for her from one house to the other, because she was unfortunately very stressed out by her parents' arrangement, you know. So everything just came together.
So it's just organically happening, and it was you
Yes.
starting to express yourself in a different way. And partly just the context and opportunity to have an impact on some child's life, you
Yes.
started to see things a little differently.
Yes.
So I understand how this journey evolved from psychology, whether in your family or people along the way. Have you had mentors? Have you had people you just have turned to, whether they know it or not, that you really had looked up, admired at key points in that journey?
I think it's really good to contemplate that because there are people that you didn't think impacted you, but did. So I mentioned my grandma. My grandma actually was very crafty, and my mom's very creative. She's a watercolor artist. My dad is an architect, so that was a huge impact on me. I remember this is like the 80s. They didn't have as much computer programs, so he still made his buildings and homes like with toothpicks and stuff. It was really cool.
Yeah.
But me and my sister was his audience before his pitch the next day.
Oh, that's so cool.
And that was osmosis, you know? And then my mom and dad, they never really flipped homes, but because they were immigrants, they loved going to like homes for sale to get ideas. That was their thing. And so we just tagged along on the weekends. So there's all these different ways that really impacted me. But I think at the end of the day, we're a very artsy, creative family. And my mom really always, even though we're Asian, yes, we had to do good in school, but but she really emphasized creativity. We were always sketching, painting. Like she really wanted us to blossom in that way. So that was a huge impact. And then just designers who aren't always chasing the trends, but sticking to their style or their personality of what they're passionate about. I know Justina Blakeney is a wonderful friend, and she's such a great example for me of like just being true to herself and her style. I just really love people like that.
Anita's story is fascinating. To go from 20 years in one career, then pivoting to something totally different doesn't seem to make sense at first. But once you start peeling back the layers, you realize it makes complete sense. There's a lesson here. Pay attention to what you are drawn to, be self-aware, understand where your passion is coming from, and you might stumble into something unexpected. And it was self-awareness, coupled with opportune timing, that was the key to her expressing herself through a different channel and effectively trying something new. I'm picturing you at someone's home in Central California somewhere, starting to rearrange shelves or something, realizing these things. From those few early times, you probably had no sense that you were being drawn into sort of how contextually space impacts people psychologically. When did that self-awareness click in to say, geez, you know what? I'm really drawn toward this other area to help people. How did that happen for you?
So I think it's really important to listen to yourself and your gut and intuition. And there's so much noise that bombards our brain every day. And I think it's really important. I'm highly intuitive. I feel blessed that I was born with that, like a sharper sense of intuition. It's like the females in our house. I don't know, my grandma, my mom, we're very intuitive. But when we're stressed, the mental load is too much. I know for many years, it wasn't as clear to me. But somewhere down the line of maybe that 20-year mark when my kids were getting a little bit older, my youngest was like 3, and I was starting to find my sense of self again. So it seemed like I had a creative itch. And I think this really applies to people who are in the design world, whether they're creating furniture or creating designs. It's very important to honor that authentic feeling that you just go, there's something more. I want to do more. What is it? And for me, I knew I always had friends that asked me for what the pink colors, the best home goods, that mommy world of like, what do we do with this small space? There's a playpen and a swing, and I want a like magazine living room. So I was living all of that. And then as I was getting to a point where I don't want to just be a mom, I don't want to just be a therapist. What do I want to be? I want to be creative. And it made sense to pursue interior design because I've always loved interior design. It seemed like I had a pretty good knack for it. And then when I thought about all the home visits I did for counseling, I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, I was totally organizing people's pantries.
I love that. So going from that, at some point, from either educational or accelerating your development more toward design, starting in psychology, and where the two crosses where you are now, but on the more technical side of design, walk me through whatever you did or didn't do. And was it just an expression of yourself? Was there more to it?
Well, I am self-taught, so I never went to interior design school, but many of the greats are self-taught, so I'm amongst one of them. And it's just practice, right? Working with a contractor and the whole like bigger projects, like from demo to all the way to the finished project. There's an order of things, and I just really learned as I went. And I am so grateful. Just like when I was 23 doing couples therapy, like I would tell them, I'm like, I know I'm not married yet, but this is what I'm learning. And they were so gracious to me. So same with my interior design clients, they were so gracious as well, as far as like trusting me with the creative eye, because I definitely had the design vision and just learning the execution. And over time, when you love something, it just flows.
It's this kind of trust the process approach that's helped Anita go on to build an award-winning brand with features in Architectural Digest, House Beautiful, and even design shows like Dream Home. Today, she's nearly 10 years into her second career, and Anita's unique perspective and approach of combining psychology and designing functional homes has helped her to become one of today's most recognized top designers. So you said a moment, how does neuroscience affect how we think about our environments?
It's interesting because, like, say symmetry. So when you are designing a room, you want, say there's a fireplace, it would be nice to have 2 windows on each side of the wall. I know from my own home, it was builder grade. So they only had 1 window on the left side. And for years and years, this right side was blank. And I could not figure out a furniture plan because that one wall was asymmetrical and off kilter. It really did affect my furniture plan. It just made the room feel wonky. And I don't know why it took me so many years, but this helped me with my clients, is limiting beliefs. So I felt like, knocking out a window is going to be too expensive, too messy, too everything. Ended up to be so easy, not that expensive. And now, because there's symmetry, the rest of the furniture plan totally, it just fell into place. So even simple things like symmetry is related to our brains because our brains need the visual cues, translates into the neurons, and the understanding of things and the balance, how big our space is, how small our space. The neuroscience, again, comes into play of how it makes us feel, how it triggers our feelings. It's all about our cognition, and then the happy hormones that get ignited, or the stress hormones that give us that mental load that we really don't want. It's very intricate and subconscious. And that's where, like in my book, I talk about how to elicit 5 senses in your home. Because again, the more we can feel alive in our homes, the more we can be authentic. Our homes, especially before COVID, I think COVID kind of made us wake up a little bit more about what our homes mean to us. And maybe now that it's after COVID, we're kind of falling into that autopilot mode again. When I was doing therapy for clients, one of the biggest things is like, how do we get ourselves out of that autopilot mode? Whether it's a relationship that we're stuck in, a job that we're stuck in, a mindset that we're stuck in, it's the autopilot mindset that keeps us stuck. So when we can ignite that 5 senses and wake our bodies up, our perspective can change, the biochemistry changes, and that's where it gets really exciting.
So understanding that, and that's how you think, which is super helpful. How do you start? Let's say the Perchik family hires you tomorrow and we have a new place. How do you start then? I'm going to guess it has a lot to do with understanding us and what our priorities are and the nature of our relationship. But how do you start? I'm trying to see how that works because it's not traditional.
It's definitely not traditional. So I would meet with you, your family, your kids, and we would just go space by space. But instead of first asking, what are the, design aesthetics, or what are the...
Because that's what you get asked by most,
Yes.
Which is great, by the way, for other people with other processes. But go ahead, that's why I'm so
standard.
Curious. Yeah.
It's standard. What are the dysfunctions of the space that you want? I would actually turn to you and your wife, because that's the primary unit, and then, of course, the kids. But it's like, how do you guys want to feel about each other in here? And then with the family, like living room, kitchen, how do you guys want to feel? And then we would list some vocab words of feelings. And then also that would inform me like, if it's light and airy, automatically the design just already speaks for itself, right? It informs you, light and airy. Okay, lighter colors, breathable fabrics. Or maybe for you, for your man cave or your office, you're like, I just want to feel like I can be productive and really focus and just hunker down. Okay, let's do maybe more mountain cabby lake. So we'll do darker colors, velvets and leathers, and not too dark. I think something that people don't realize is having a darker space actually can calm our brain down to focus. So there's so much like different aspects of neuroscience, but it comes down to your why.
I love the feel that starts with how do you want it to make you feel? I mean, aesthetic is about emotion and feeling. So there's actually logic that can be applied to it, but it's not intuitive, certainly not for me. That's really fascinating.
Yeah. And for me as a psychologist to go beyond just the feeling, but the why,
Right.
why do I want to feel this way? Because I know a lot of my designer friends already ask, how do you want to feel? I want to feel happy. I want to feel calm. I want to feel confident. Great. But what's your why? Because once you have your why and your purpose and your intention, then it's specified. It's not just this like, well, okay, here are 5 million happy colors.
Right.
There's 5 common words in therapy that we all use and overuse, which is good, happy, mad, sad, glad. And that's very basic, right? But if you were to look at the feeling words like this, I have this whole wheel. There's so many different words that just have a tweak where it's like, oh, yeah, that's how. So finding that why behind your feeling is just probably to me the most important.
Super interesting. And I mean, why is about purpose too, and purposefulness is what people attach to, and people can do, superhuman things if they really feel connected to something because of purpose. So now you're evolving to this person who's naturally moving, organically moving toward this other place, and now you're working on a range. You described some of the projects or the process within these projects. How do you go from there to writing books? I mean, it's clearly drive and it's clearly a natural curiosity. You have all of those things are obvious to me and getting to know you a little bit, but still walk us through then how do you go from that to podcasts and books and becoming like a big deal, famous person?
Well, thank you, John. I think it really comes to being grounded in your energy. So instead of thinking about just outcomes like, oh, these are all my goals and stuff like that, I'm going to tell you a little inside joke.
I can't wait.
My sister in 3rd grade won a writing competition that's statewide. She was the writer. She's the English major. I'm Netflix. Okay, I like TV. I like videos. I like movies. I was not necessarily a reader in our family, but she was. So the big joke in our Lee, and my last name's Lee. The big joke in the Lee family is, how the heck did Anita end up writing a book and not Gloria? Like, this is crazy. So writing this book, so grateful. I love it. I get to share it with the world, but it wasn't necessarily something that I was pining for. But this is proof that when you are committed and you're passionate, things in the universe moves for you that is even better for you than you imagined.
Right.
So I really think it starts with your energy and your grounding.
Right. And a different version of that. So I like a lot of sports references. If you're watching the shot clock, if you're watching the scoreboard, you miss the shot.
Yes.
And it's really about what you put into things, your natural curiosity, your energy, your drive, and great things come as a result of that, not the opposite.
I really believe that. And you really have to narrow it down to something that differentiates yourself too. So what differentiates me is really my psychology background. And so for whoever is listening, I know one of the goals you have for the listener is, how can I find something that I love and shine? Because everybody thinks the same, right? Like, well, there's a million designers out there. There's a million furniture brands. Or for me, there's a million interior designers out there. But for me, it's really owning what differentiates me, which is I'm put on this earth to share my psychology experience, how neuroscience helps us at home through interior design. And that's my niche. That's my voice.
One thing I'm also curious about is obviously your work is focused, because of the way you describe it, on homes, residential, right? Because it's feelings and purpose. Have you ever thought about evolving that, or not to, there's nothing wrong with it, obviously, but as I'm sitting here thinking about whether it's hospitality or other kinds of environments, like hotels, for example, are so much about brand and an expression of brand. And the more differentiated a hotel's brand is, the more successful it is. Have you done much there? I'm just curious.
Well, that definitely is a goal of mine, is to be like, I know a lot of industrial psychologists go and do things like that. But for me, it's like, because of my interior design experience as well, I feel like I can really speak to that. It's funny you mentioned that, because today I was at the hotel and they had the toiletries. And I'm like, it'd be really cool is to start like a home therapy toiletries for hotels and have it say home therapy soap, home therapy lotion, and have scents that actually ignite the dopamine and the serotonin and stuff. I did meet someone at KBiz, which is the kitchen and bath convention in Vegas, and someone had said, I want to have you come do an in-service for my brand because they design, I think, faucets and things like that. So it's definitely something that I'm interested in. On a side note, like say Ronald McDonald House in Orange County, I work with them a lot. They just remodeled one of their homes to add for the children and the families that come to CHOC, which is Children's Hospital. And so I consult with them as far as like what colors and flow and layout, or like we did a teen room. And there's even like a little salon for the moms who need a haircut, but they don't have time because they're always at the hospital with their kids who are sick. So I definitely see that crossover, and I would love to delve into that more for sure.
No, it makes a lot of sense. What else would be useful for folks to know if they're looking for help and guidance and inspiration in their journey, whether they're designers, there's retailers, mom and pops out there? What else would you tell folks?
So a lot of times our creativity are just kind of untapped.
Yeah.
And we get into this like cookie cutter box of like, we have limiting beliefs or we have real box ideas of who we are. And something about being creative, and this is why it's so important, even if it's embroidery, even if it's like tinkering with cars, like go out and do things that you don't normally do, that's with your hands and with your mind. And that will lead you to something else that could be creative for a profession. But don't discount just doing hobbies.
Sure, right.
That will really bring out that creativity, and that will ignite something inside of you that could lead to something else later that you could do for a profession. And then I think as a business person and also with, a therapy background is like, I will admit that I tend to be a little bit more, and it won't surprise you, I'm sure that I'm kind of more on the workaholic side.
I've sort of guessed that a little bit.
I just
you
love
have like
it.
28 hours in your day. The rest of us have 24 somehow.
I'm an Aries. We're very we're just go, go, go. But really, there's so much importance in taking things a pause and slowing down. The biggest thing that I'm learning as a business person is not everything is a fire drill. Like not every email is a fire drill, not every project opportunity. We don't have to be saying yes to everything. We don't have to say yes to every design client. Like learning to say no, and also taking days of rest. So like last week, Monday, Tuesday, I just was like physically not feeling well. And in the past, I would have like pushed through it.
Muscle through, power through.
And the burnout is real. The burnout is real. So I'm learning to really appreciate not doing anything sometimes.
Well, this has been awesome. You have so many layers to who you are and what's made you successful. So I'm really grateful you took the time, Anita. I really appreciate getting to know you here.
Me too.
What I love about Anita's story is that it's a useful reminder for life as well as business. Transformation doesn't always mean starting again from scratch. Sometimes it's about tuning into what drives you and where your passion is coming from and using that self-awareness to reframe your focus. She didn't totally abandon her background in psychology. She built on it, and in the process carved out a genuine niche for herself. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Market Makers. I've been your host, John Perchik. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure you're following the show wherever you get your podcasts, and join us each week as we uncover more stories of transformation from the people shaping how we live, work, and gather.